Libby, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, happy to be here, Marc.
You've played such a big influence on my coaching business and growth and success and all that stuff. And I wanted to ask you right off the bat, you're one of the first people I saw on Instagram marketing their business with like text on the photos. This was like 2018, 2019. It was completely, for me, it was like felt revolutionary because I never seen it before. Where did you come across that? And like, how was that? How did you start doing those type of things?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I'm not great I would say photography is not my number one skill, like
Hmm.
many of your listeners, perhaps.
Yeah,
And so I
totally.
wanted to find new ways to get the point across that were clear without having to focus only on making smoothie bowls.
Exactly.
Right. And so one of the best ways to do that was to find a way to communicate clearly through using text and photos, but it was mostly because I just didn't have those food photo skills.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to find new ways to get my point across and market my business. And it turned out that that worked really well. And it had, been a big trend for a long time, and in a lot of ways still is a trend. But it was largely based on I was trying to like, find a way that I could use my skills to my advantage.
No kidding. No kidding. Was there a moment you knew that was like paying off for you? Like it was different and it was working?
I would say that it. I don't know about a particular moment, but it definitely it became a huge trend. And overall, I think that a lot of people were getting tired of beautiful photos that just looked like everyone else's. And so using text was a way to become more clear and really get the marketing front and center. And so I don't know if I'd say there was a true moment where it came to life, but I would say over time I saw that that trend really took off. And so a lot of, I teach it, a lot of people do it, and it's worked really well for them. And it just goes to show that you don't have to focus on one way of doing things to market. There are so many different ways, and what's most important is to be clear. And I think
Mhm.
allowing and incorporating text with imagery really does that. I know there's more to it than just using text, or I don't want to oversimplify it, but
Totally.
finding ways to add context to your messages is really important. And we see that with YouTube, right? On the thumbnails, adding text on thumbnails. Although, of course, when you get more sophisticated, you can test imagery, but for folks who are really, really big, they might just use imagery. But for a lot of us that are trying to grow, incorporating text with imagery is really important.
Without a doubt. I think the one thing is obviously there's more to it, but I think when you can use text, it just becomes much more like obvious what you're talking about. Like, and I
Yeah,
think a lot of times we get too into our own message or trying to
sure.
communicate and what we're describing. And sometimes just being able to like say, like, this is what this is about. Is it for you? Type of stuff just it lands a lot better in most cases.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do in marketing is get our point across as fast as possible with as few words as possible.
Yeah.
So the quicker we can do that through a catchy headline and through captivating people quickly without what we're saying or showing being too busy, the better. And that's challenging, right? To say less and communicate more is always a challenge, and it takes a bit of practice, but it really does pay off.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I think you've been obviously been able to take this approach, apply it to your own business, and then help countless others through Dietitian Boss. Like,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about like just the private practice and kind of getting, because I think we have similar paths around kind of like the establishment and trying to get out of some of those like, I don't know, structured jobs that don't really serve us. So tell me a
Sure.
little bit more about like how you've been able to do that and what that means to you as well as the others that you help.
Yeah, well, I would say you mean just like building an online business
Yeah,
and doing
totally.
so to break out of the 9 to 5.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I think that the first thing is having the motivation to really think about what you enjoy doing. And for me, I never enjoyed being confined to the 9 to 5. I didn't feel like it was challenging enough. I felt like as a registered dietitian, my role wasn't respected enough. And
Hmm.
so, if your listeners can relate in any way, you might want to do more, but you also come across this impasse where you don't have enough time in the day to necessarily build your own practice and work a 9 to 5, which can always be challenging. So for me, I found ways to teach and speak and maximize my income through leveraged income, uh, leveraged opportunities, which meant that I wasn't necessarily seeing clients one on one. In addition to my 9 to 5, I was speaking and teaching in front of hundreds of people like you, Dr. Mark, right? Like
Yeah.
finding ways to make money in in really smart ways. So teaching and speaking allowed me to make more money in per unit of time than I would have if I was just loading on more patients, right? More clients at night, which I know can be exhausting for people who are trying to build a one-on-one practice. So that's why I'm a big fan of finding opportunities for leveraged income. So for me, it was finding leveraged income opportunities like teaching and speaking, but then also talking about it and sharing that. And what I did was taught medical nutrition therapy and got paid for it, a lot of money for teaching and speaking opportunities. And then I shared that with my colleagues, and then my colleagues who are dietitians asked me how I could help them do the same thing. And it was through marketing. And then I got a lot of inquiries about how to use Instagram and build an online business. And since then, I help people, dietitians mostly, with business foundations, growing their business, also finding opportunities to leverage their time. So that means teaching, speaking. If they want to do one-on-one, fine. So structuring a program, but really finding ways to create group programming and really build a business that allows that flexibility. And in terms of breaking free through the 9 to 5, it really comes down to learning skills to market, and not, you mentioned earlier, but not thinking that your work is too precious, but really thinking about who you're trying to market to and how you can create an effective message to communicate to them, and always putting that customer front and center. And if you come and show up with that mindset, then I think you're going to go further faster. If you're constantly thinking about what's precious to you and how your message might impact you personally, which a lot of beginners do that, right? We're thinking, oh, well, I don't like the way this looks, I don't think I can present myself that way. Then that's how we get in our own way. So the more we can think of how is what I'm creating, whether it's a marketing message, an Instagram post with text, like we talked about earlier, the more we can think about creating something for somebody else and how that can best serve them and what does that look like, and you're going to have a better chance of getting hired and getting seen.
Without a doubt. I think one thing I'm hearing from that too is that, and I think you feel similarly, is like the kind of like at the beginning, like quantity over quality in terms of like trying things, putting it out there, not getting it in your own way, and trying to refine that through the practice of doing it is more important than like getting it right the first time.
I would argue that I almost still feel that way. So yeah, I mean, quantity is so important because we get caught in our own head and we want things to be perfect. But until we've put out a lot of content and gotten feedback and data through in like actual numbers, which we want to look at in the form of metrics, like let's say you're sending out emails to your email list, and we're starting to get precious again because we, as creators, as healthcare providers, me as a dietitian, I might think, oh, well, that recipe wasn't good enough or that message didn't land. But it's not about that one message. It's about your ability to be consistent. Are you sending out emails every week? Right? Are you using a call to action, asking people to buy a product or service that you're selling? Are you creating community through the work that you're doing? And so I think a lot of us fall short and we stop before we give up, or we're not consistent, but we haven't sent enough emails to our email list. And so we don't have the data to know what's our open rate, what's our click-through rate. And so 9 out of 10 times when I'm working with a client, they'll say, yeah, I have an email list. I sent out maybe 3 or 4 emails, but I stopped. Or I used to do it last season, but I stopped. And so the question is, why did you stop? And it's usually because there's something inside their head, some kind of mindset block that's prohibiting them from being consistent. So consistency always comes first because we can't get the data and the metrics without being consistent. And that means we're going to be putting out more content. Like you said, it's the quantity. We can't improve the quality until we have more quantity. Now, of course, we want to be mindful about what metrics we're looking at, right? We really want to focus on click rates, open rates, et cetera, but we need to have enough data to pull from, meaning we've really been consistent with email marketing. Very rarely do I have a client that says, I've been consistent with my email marketing, right? It's usually that's not the case.
Yeah, I think back when we worked together, especially with the Instagram stuff, I know like link click specifically was like a gold standard metric around like, are people with a clear call to action doing this thing? Has anything changed in that sense around, like, obviously the platforms are all different, but social media's changed too. Is there something that you're noticing with that in your work?
So much. Well, Instagram's changed a lot and it's constantly evolving and becoming more complex in a lot of ways. But ultimately, what is similar and what will always be similar is people looking for community, right? And people looking for content to resonate with them, and people looking for solutions to their problems. whether they want to lose weight or they want to alleviate GI distress. Like, people need their problems solved. And if you can find some way to do that in your content, like, that's what matters, no matter how much the platform changes, right? So I would say that shares count a lot now, more than they have before, and saves,
Yeah.
where link clicks, I mean, all that stuff is still important, but even I believe the CEO himself has talked about how hashtags aren't as relevant as they used to be. And so things are a lot different than they were before. So saves and saves and shares are going to be the most important right now.
Awesome. How, in terms of, I was going to ask about, obviously we're streaming live on YouTube right now. And you've been on YouTube for like 6 or 7 years, I would say, consistently.
Oh my gosh, has it been that long? I feel like I wasn't as consistent at the beginning, but I've been more consistent in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Have you noticed much, like, can you tell me about your thoughts on YouTube? Because when we worked together, I wasn't utilizing it. I would describe myself as like, I'm not a YouTuber in the sense of like, I use YouTube for everything. I search out problems. I'm on it. I watch videos, like all those things. Like, that was very much me, but just kind of a bystander, just in the shadows kind of thing. And it took me a while to get there, but now that I've gotten into it and I've done it and consistently, it's changed a lot for me. So like, what has it done for your business, and how do you view it?
Well, first of all, YouTube, as you know, and your listeners might know, is really important. And I love video marketing, and for me, it's very natural. I love speaking, so it lends to my strengths. I will say it does take a little bit more work than like podcasting. There's just a few more steps to make sure everything clicks. And I just had a baby. So for me, it's like figuring out the best time when I was pregnant and delivered to batch create content was definitely a little tricky for me to work around that schedule. So that's where the organization comes in. But in terms of YouTube and what it's done for my business, people do find me on YouTube, and people, like, quality leads will purchase my coaching program and join our membership from YouTube. Now, I don't have the largest following and I don't have the most views, but I use particular keywords that are unique for dietitians and that are really low volume. So there's not a lot of folks searching dietitian private practice. It's very low keyword volume. I'm talking like 70 hits per month. So that means that the content I'm creating is not going to be very it's not going to be very popular. And I know that, but for the folks, the 70 that are searching it, when they find me, I have a better chance of them being more aligned and truly help. When they find me, I solve their problems and talk about business building. Lately, I've been lending a little bit more into some clinical skills to really help dietitians with the confidence to grow their practice. And so we do get qualified leads from YouTube, even though we don't have as many views, and we have a smaller account. So the strategy can depend, if you're doing gut health or whatnot, depending on your angle, you're looking at keywords, there might be a ton of volume for what you're doing. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned throughout the thread of this conversation, it's all about solving a problem for who you're trying to reach. And for us at Dietitian Boss, we're helping dietitians grow their business. That's what we focus on doing. And so using those keywords and being a resource for them when they search relevant keywords, me and like 2 other people show up. Like, there's not that many people. There's not that much competition on YouTube for what I do.
I think for people they see social media and like a short form content as this, like, I got to get a bunch of views and I got to put a bunch of stuff out there. I think it's almost a refreshing take to hear that, like, if you know the problem you're solving and can just create content specific on that content and put it on YouTube, like, people can find you, and it becomes a little less like, kind of like hope that people will find it. It's more or less like
definitely
very intentful, right?
Yeah. And it's a great strategy. And I think that it's the hardest part, and let me know if you agree, Marc, is getting into the steps that with the system. So there is a lot of back end with YouTube that has to do with the post-production. And that's why I think short form is so attractive and it's skyrocketed in popularity, is because it cuts some of the steps in half. I actually prefer long form content. I like it.
Why is that?
I need to do more short form. I guess I feel like for the amount of effort that I put forth, I can articulate and have a bit of a longer conversation in short form. I'm sorry, in longer form, I'm talking like 3 to 10 minutes or something, and get a point across in a YouTube video that I make. more so than in a short. But a short's great because it's like a way to get them, to hook them and to reel them in. So we need to up our short form game at Dietitian Boss, but we've been consistent with the long form. And what we've been working on in the last year, especially with my son's birth, is making sure that we're really good at planning content for the entire business over 3 months ahead. So one of our rocks, we use rocks for planning. Quarterly, we have an annual goal, and then we break rocks, which is a form of goal setting, into quarterly goals and milestones and tasks. And one thing we've gotten better at with my team on the back end is planning all content, from email marketing to Instagram posts to internal marketing for our members to marketing for YouTube planning and podcasting, including guests and solo. All of that content is created 3 months plus in advance. And so for us to do that and have that system, including looking at metrics and optimizing, right? Yeah. What about click rates? What can we do to test these titles, et cetera? So if we're not only creating, but strategizing how to improve content on a quarterly basis, that has superseded the short form content, but it is on our list. It is partially just because at the birth of my son, I wanted to make sure I was consistent and that the team we're still getting stuff out there and publishing it. So that's kind of a little bit why I was prioritizing the long form, but I do enjoy it. It takes a little bit of a different mindset to create long form, and unless if you're repurposing it from the script into a short form, but if you're actually like making the short form fresh, it's another step, right?
Without a doubt. I think, have you played around with the Opus yet for taking full on?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, the one thing with obviously AI has gone crazy with this type of stuff, but typically before we used to take like the long form videos and have an editor cut them out based on like retention, like, oh, what went well in this video, let's start to do that. Now there's platforms like Opus where you can take the actual YouTube link and it'll take the entire video, cut it up into shorts based on what it feels like it's going to do the best, and like just spit out the files for you, re-edited too with captions and stuff, which is like, oh man, this stuff has come a long way.
Yeah, it has. I've used over the last couple of years, I have tested a few of those and they've been okay. They definitely have been okay. So it's just one more step to add into our process. And so it might be that we'll add that into the next time we're doing a batch content. Cool. We could add that in. Yeah. And I know Descript, I don't know if you guys use that. We love Descript here at Dietitian Boss. Yeah, okay. Descript can also make short form content, but I think it might be a bit more manual than the technology than the software you're telling me about. But I know there's so many out there with AI. But ultimately, whether you're repurposing it or you're actually getting out there and just doing a recap of the long form content, definitely, I know short form is a fantastic way to go as well.
It's just like in terms of testing out like titles and stuff, right? Like if we have 3 or 4 more opportunities to take that and test out a new title and see how it goes, it's like, that's where we start to see those trends around, okay, this is like, that's taking off. We got to do more of that and kind of go from there. Sure. Which I was going to ask you, at this point, do you feel like with some of the keywords and the videos you made based on them, are you kind of like beating a dead horse? Do you feel like you've said the same thing too much, or you still feel like, I mean, at times I feel like I've made this video 8 times already.
I think that anybody who's been creating content as an owner in their online business will say that they feel like they repeat themselves. So, and you should, if you're successful, then you will be repeating yourself because you want to have a similar theme in what you do. And you want to have that familiarity with your audience because you should be talking about the same problems. I'm constantly talking to dietitians about what to do to start and grow their business, about how to avoid burnout, about how to use the internet better, about what it looks like to attract clients and actually convert potential client leads into clients. So in talking about these same things, it can be redundant, but you got to have fresh new angles. So one way we do that is through having guests on our podcast and sharing their story. Oftentimes highlighting, I'll have 1 or 2 of our clients on a month. So they share their journey tied with how we at Dietitian Boss have supported them. So that's something we've been doing for 6 or 7 years.
Amazing.
So I think that storytelling does not get old because you're hearing it from one of your peers, right? So that's one way of keeping things fresh. On YouTube lately, I have been switching up a little bit by going into a few clinical scenarios and sharing a bit. And I know you do that a lot, Marc, talk about reverse dieting, et cetera. Yeah. So talking it less, I do less of that specifically, but more about how to best lead a counseling session what it looks like to retain clients. Again, it all goes back to the theme of making money online as a dietitian, how you can grow your business through retaining clients, through providing excellent service, etc., or really improving your interpersonal skills. So it's all in alignment with what I teach, but perhaps from a new angle, perhaps a few new keywords such as like 24-hour recall, etc., right?
Oh,
That I
cool.
kind of
Yeah.
throw in and test and see, because it still attracts the type of dietitian that's at least improving their skills in some capacity, hopefully their business skills.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Okay. One last question I want to ask
Sure.
you. You said this word a few times, and I feel like, Libby, you're very much a trailblazer in many ways. And you said the word precious a few times. Is that like when I heard that, I was thinking like, okay, there's people that are really concerned about what they do and where they've come from and what they've accomplished. And in an online business, like you got to focus on who it's for and not this stuff. What's the precious thing? Is that like when we're acting too precious? Like, is this a new word that we got to start talking about?
Well, I don't know if it's a new word, but tell me about your audience, Marc. But when it comes to mine, they are very emotional, and we're a lot of us are very tied to our work. So we think our handouts that we've made with a graphic that we got from Canva, perhaps a stock image, and the way we've curated it cannot be changed or altered, and it has to be given to a client no matter what. Right. So that's an example. And like the handouts we make, and even if we've made it before we have a client that's told us that they have PCOS and wants to lose weight, you know what I'm saying? So I think that we tend to hold on to these ideas before we've gotten data from our clients that they actually have those problems. And that's what I mean, is that we think that our work that we've made means more to our clients than it does. It really just means something to ourselves. And it's our inability to let go and to really be real about what people want and not what we think they want. And good marketing, the best marketing, is not about what we think that people want. It's validating that we know what people want. How? We talk to them. We send out emails and wait for them to respond. We talk to them on social media. If they're not responding to our Instagram posts online, that's okay. Let's talk to them through DMs. Let's send out some polls. Let's find some ways to really gather information and find out what people want, and ask our customers, right? If you have some paying customers, get feedback from them so we can constantly make sure that what we're doing supports what they want, whether that's how we're marketing or how we're delivering our product or service. And if we're not doing that regularly, and we're not talking to people about what they want and need, whether they're a customer or they're a potential customer, then we're doing a disservice, and then we're holding on to what we think is precious. So yeah, it's really when you're emotionally invested in whatever you're creating without it, without knowing that it's actually working.
Without a doubt. I just think that's such a great way of describing that. And I think it paints the picture around the problem that many people face as they get this stuff started, is that they're just way too
And it's
concerned about.
normal.
Yeah.
And so if you felt that way, it's totally normal. I think we've all been there. It's just the idea that we don't want to hang out there forever, right? So if we've created handouts and we've already made a course but 0 people have bought it, then you're being precious about your work. Right? Because it's not about what you think, it's about what people actually validate and say, you know what, that helped. And so we want to, it's called just-in-time learning. We want to learn in time and adapt what we're doing to what people want, and that'll save us time and energy. And it's hard to do that because we want to get ahead of ourselves. But ultimately, you always have to be in tune with what the customer wants. And if you're not, then that's a good place right now, is to go ask 5 or 10 of your customers some questions and try to make sure that you're landing with them, or go ask 5 or 10 people you interact with online so that you can create better, more focused content about what they want and need, not what you assume they want and need. And that's a good place to start, and to stop being so emotional about what work we're doing.
I think it's just a really important business lesson, because I think a lot of us come into this without many business skills, right? Like without marketing skills. And I think a lot of us, I'm sure you get this all the time, and I view you as a great marketer. It's like people think you just had it, right? And you're like, I know, I learned to listen. I developed this through just listening and just the practice of putting that message out there. And that's how we get better.
Yeah. And I talk about my mistakes on YouTube and try to be as transparent as possible, and on my podcast. And I share, mistakes I've made, and my clients will share mistakes they've made too. And I think it's important, as we're keeping our content fresh, especially through the stories from the lens of our client, to hear we're not alone in making mistakes. And we all make marketing mistakes. We make sales mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps we didn't make the pitch, or we did it wrong, or we forgot to, ask for payment on the phone or over Zoom or something like that. And we just got to move on and learn from it. It's just part of business. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. It was so great to reconnect, and you're just such a wealth of knowledge. So I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure was mine. Thank you for having me, and it's awesome to see you and your YouTube channel and all of your subscribers. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for having me. Hang out.
amazing. We'll have to do it again. Okay.
Looking forward, Mark. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Now, as great as all those tips are, maybe you're still wondering how to start or grow your nutrition coaching. Here's what I want you to do. Go to the first link down in the description below, and you'll get all the details on our Nutrition Coaching Academy certification. It's a 90-day program that'll give you everything you need to start nutrition coaching or to take your nutrition coaching business to the next level. Check out all the details down in the link below, and thanks for watching.